your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this side event of the least developed countries expert group. I am Adam Suarez Barbosa from Timor-Leste, and I am the vice chair of the LEC, Least Developed Countries Expert Group. I would be your moderator for this very important event. This event is being streamed in the COP27 platform, and with that I would like also to welcome our virtual audience that are not being with us. So I would like once again to welcome the virtual participants as well. The LEC organizes side events at these sessions to discuss the experiences and progress made by the least developed countries in advancing adaptation, insights on their challenges and needs for support, and support provided by the LEC, UN agencies and organizations, and the Green Climate Fund and the Least Developed Countries Fund to the LDCs. We are delighted to have you all here with us, with the LEC, as we provide key updates on our strategic activities addressing the priority needs for support of the least developed countries. The LDC Group Chair will be providing us the guidance on the priority needs of the LDCs. We are still waiting for the LDC Chair to come, but since we have, at least the LDC Chair has a lot of events, she will be with us in a sooner manner. The operating entities of the financial mechanism will also provide updates on funding support to LDCs on the formulation and also implementation of national adaptation plans. We will hear country reflections on success stories, experiences, and challenges on the formulation and implementation of their respective NAPs. And we hope to have a good discussion later on how to further support the LDCs as they advance their adaptation planning processes and implementation process. Without further ado, I would now like to request the LEC Chair, Mr. Kanel Dosalka, to provide his opening remarks for our event. Mr. Kanel, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Adao. And good evening, colleagues, and welcome to the side event of the LEG. It's a pleasure for me to see so many familiar faces. The parties representative, we have the organization, we have operating entities of the financial mechanism of the convention. We have the AF, the JEF, the GCF, the organization, thanks UNCDF. We have also ISD NAP Global Network. Thanks for coming. And also our friend in the back from Cambodia, who just hosts the NAP writing workshop for the Asia Pacific region. So thanks for coming. And I'm really looking forward to the updates that will be shared by Madeleine, the LDC Group Chair. So as I mentioned by the Vice Chair, so she will be joining us in a few minutes. And also I'm looking forward for the updates from the GCF, the LDCF, and also reflection from the LDC representative, notably Cambodia, among others. So the Lakeside event remains to be an important space for the LDCs to share their experiences, challenges, gaps, and needs, and also success stories in addressing adaptation. It is my hope that we can use this opportunity to have an exchange on the support provided to the LDCs and how to further enhance this support to address the needs of the LDCs on adaptation. At this side event, we want to focus on the key targets that the LEG has set in order to achieve its vision of supporting the LDCs, that each LDC be supported to have the right instruments to facilitate successful adaptation at the national level, and these are the plan, a NAP, and pipeline of bankable projects for funding under the GCF, the LDCF, the AF, and other sources of funding. As I have mentioned at the LEG, during the LEG at 20 high-level event, we continue to advocate that each LDC must be assisted to access proportionate share of available funding. All of this require political buy-in and leadership at the national level and support by all members of the international community to the LDCs. I hope we can direct our support to the LDCs on this. I wish everyone a very productive session. Thank you very much, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kanol. Next, I would like to read out our next program with regard to presentations. First one will be presentation on vision and priorities for the support of the LEG and the rules of procedures that will be delivered by the LEG member. Ms. Anna is here. Amina is here, sorry. And then after that, we will provide space for question and answer for very short one. And after that, there will be also presentation from the LDCF and others regarding the support for formulation and implementation of the NAP. And we also will have a country representative presentation. And our next panel will be also put forward after this presentation and the closing remarks. So as we heard that in terms of inviting a country representative, our colleagues from Cambodia will be one of them, since they will have another urgent event. So we would like to invite the representative of the government of Cambodia to make presentation. With that, I would like to invite colleagues from Cambodia to make your presentation. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Thai Sawana. I am Director of Water Resources Management and Conservation Department from Ministry of Water Resources and Meteorology from Cambodia. And now I would like to share the experience that our department or our ministry that responsible for water resources management, how water resources management respond to the climate change. in the national, in the climate change strategy for water, we are focused on the 4 areas. The first is improvement hydrology, methodology, and management of warming system. That is the first area. And the second area is improvement flood and drought management through change in design of the reservoir and irrigation protection infrastructure. That is the second area. And the third area is we talking about the human resource or capacity building. And fourth is promoting gender responsiveness in the climate change planning in the water sector. From the training, regional training in our country in Siem Reap in September, they are led by LEC. We are prepare the concept project idea. That this concept project idea, I propose the capacity building on water resources management to the farmer water user community. That is, the idea is very important for the community and for the farmer. That the farmer, they not clear to understand what will be impact from the climate change, how to increase the knowledge, the climate change to respond to the water resources management. That is one. The concept idea that we are proposed that this one, our objective, we have the objective is to build capacity, knowledge and awareness of the farmer to the farmer water user community on the climate smart irrigation technique. That is one, in our country, we provide the irrigation system we call small irrigation system that less than 500 hectares to the farmer water user community to manage and operate of the system. That so that in this period that we are facing to the climate change, and so that we want to capacity to the farmer how to operate, how to manage of a small irrigation system respond to the climate change. That is one. And our activity the first we need to build the knowledge to the farmer, and second we how to connect things between the farmer water user group in the farmer water user community, how they change the experience in the farmer water user community. That is one. In our country, the farmer water user community, we have farmer water user group. That is one. Sometimes the farmer water user community, they have 5 group or 10 group that is independent on the area, but less than 500 hectares. That is one. And the third, we are to improve or rehabilitation irrigation system. That is one. That is one in regional training in Siem Reap. We are also prepare the concept idea to submit to chief through the Ministry of Environment, through the Ministry of Environment in Cambodian. That is one. And who will be collaborate or join a project with my concept idea. I propose that this one we propose the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry in Cambodia. We collaborate with the GIZ, that is one, and then the second partner is AFD, that is one, and now we are looking for approval from the we are looking for the fund that this one this one that I also prepare that concept idea that we learn from the regional training in Siem Reap in Cambodian in from 12 to 14 that this one. I would like to at this moment I would like to elect to help us to prepare the technical proposal, the full technical proposal that we looking for fund to support this one. That I think this our proposal very important and very successful to the farmer water user community that this one. Because you know the problem that will be facing to the farmer. I talking in the rural area, but that not in the urban area, but in the rural area there will be problem, and also irrigation system infrastructure not fully function. That is one. We not only capacity building, we need to improve facility irrigation system. That is one. This is my presentation. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Can we provide applause to colleagues from the Cambodia? We would like to just state that the technical training provided by the LEC in Cambodia last time was useful, which was more focusing on project idea development issues from different agencies, governmental agencies. So it is being useful, and then they look forward to get a full proposal for the project. So this is country experience. I would like to invite just one or two questions to the representative of Cambodia. The floor is open. Very quick question. If not, then thank you very much, colleagues from Cambodia. You can just take your seat down there, and we really appreciate your effort in making presentation on these useful experiences and also way forward. So once again, thank you very much for this. Let me go back to our session that could be the first one. The next presentation that I would like to inform to all of you is presentation on vision and priorities for support of the LEC and the rules of procedure that will be presented by Ms. Amina on behalf of the LEC. Amina, as a LEC member, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and a warm welcome also from my side. So I'm going to present to you some of the key highlights of the LEC, of the work of the LEC. So here's the priorities that the LEC has identified as part of its work program for 2022-2023. For example, one of these activities is enhancing provisions of direct support to the LDCs to enable them to submit their first SNAP as soon as possible. Another activity is the supporting of the LDCs in establishing an effective and iterative process to formulate and implement their NAPs, or also continuing to engage and collaborate with the GCF and the JEF. So this slide highlights the progress made in the process to formulate and implement NAPs as of 31st of October 2022. 139 out of the 154 developing countries had undertaken at least one activity related to the process to formulate and implement NAPs until then. Of the 139 countries, 113 had submitted 127 proposals, of which 42 are by LDCs for accessing funding from the GCF NAP Readiness Funding. 39 developing countries, of which 69 LDCs, had developed and submitted their NAPs and shared them on NAP Central. Of the 39 countries, 24 had projects approved for the funding and had 2 projects in a concept note stage in the GCF portfolio to support implementation of priorities identified in their NAPs. All 154 developing countries had included adaptation components in their submitted NDCs, of which 106 specifically related to NAPs. This slide shows the countries that have submitted NAPs and have published them on NAP Central. Currently it's 40 NAPs, and Paraguay has even updated its NAP, making it the first country to have 2 NAPs on NAP Central. So the LAG developed its draft rules of procedure for consideration and adoption at COP27 and CMA4 in accordance with the mandate from COP26. The draft rules of procedure include important provisions on the following, in addition to the standard clauses usually contained in such documents. So, for example, areas of expertise for groups and constituencies to consider when nominating experts, then the terms of service for the members, or functions of the chair, vice chair, and rapporteur. As we have already presented during the last side event, which took place during the SBs, the LAG has worked on establishing a roster of experts. And we have launched a call for nomination in July, and it's still open for applicants on a continuing basis. We've received 38 applications and have been, and as of 18th October 2022. And national experts have relevant skills in the following areas. So institutional arrangement and coordination undertaken in the NAP process, climate scenarios, science and transition to local context, risk and vulnerability assessments and risk management, addressing guiding principles of adaptation and the NAP process, and implementation strategies and investment plans, as well as M&E. And as far as I'm aware, the roster is available online, and I'm looking at Paul to confirm. So you can find it on the webpage. We've also undertaken the NAP Expo in August 2022 in Botswana. And it promoted the exchange of experiences and fostered partnerships between a wide range of actors and stakeholders. So some numbers of the NAP Expo, we had 430 participants and 15 keynote speakers, of which 6 were women and 9 were men, and nearly 30 organizations contributed to the event. Furthermore, the LAG has facilitated the development and implementation of project proposals to improve the LDC's access to GCF and other sources of funding through the NAP writing workshops. So far, we've conducted 2 NAP writing workshops this year, one for African LDCs, which took place in March 2022 in Nairobi, Kenya, and one for Asia-Pacific LDCs, which took place in July in Siem Reap, Cambodia. And the LAG is working closely with the LDCs in supporting them. For the next year, we are also planning to conduct further NAP writing workshops in March in Mauritania, and another one in July in Laos, and one in Pacific. However, that date needs to be defined yet. The LAC has also started working on technical guidelines for the implementation of NAPs. This is mainly because we've heard in the past years that a lot of countries are facing difficulties transitioning from the formulation phase to the implementation phase. And hence, the LAC started focusing on how to facilitate this. The technical guidelines are informed by the ongoing work of the LAC, including in relation to the essential functions and uses of a NAP, the characteristics of a NAP, adaptation priorities that are ready for implementation, and the latest scientific resources available on climate risk and vulnerability management. So the LAC is planning to continue conveying key stakeholders to participate in the development of the technical guidelines, and we are planning to publish a draft outline by the end of the year, and then to hold consultations in the beginning of next year, and then hopefully to have the guidelines finalized by the SBICs next year. So here are some recent publications by the LAC that we would like to share with you. The LAC at 20 publication on its achievements and milestones of the LAC since its establishment, and then a catalog of project ideas from the 2022 NAP writing workshops, and other documents that you can find on the website. Here are some key deliverables for the LAC in 2023, which are based on the work program of the LAC. Enhancing NAP Central, including the submitted NAPs and outreach material, the 2023 progress report and NAPs, the technical guidelines for the implementation of NAPs, and the publication of best practices and lessons learned. And this is just some key aspects of our work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amina, for the excellent presentation. I think Amina made a presentation on the technical assistance that have been provided by the LAC with regard to formulation of the NAPs. Some LDCs have already submitted the NAPs, and now we are providing further technical assistance for implementation of the NAP by having different regions for Asia, for Africa, and for Pacific this year and up to next year. So that's technical assistance provided by the LAC. Any questions? I would like to invite one or two questions only. One or two questions. The floor is open. Thank you, sir. Just identify yourself and then raise your question. The floor is open. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Timo Leiter from London School of Economics. Just one point on the PEC M&E tool. How does that relate to the new implementation guidance that was presented earlier today, which also has multiple M&E points? Thank you.
One more question? Oh, yes. Please identify yourself. I know you, but please identify yourself so participants can know you.
Thank you, Mr. Barbosa. It's Rohini Kohli from UNDP. I think the last year or two has been a huge acceleration in the submitted NAPs and also with the writing workshop. So question is for the countries that have now submitted NAPs, Are they going to be, more writing workshops next year? I mean, because the idea is to, I think, try and accelerate the implementation. So just to understand the plans of the leg for next year, I mean, as UNDP, we're very, we want to support, and it's easier if there's a calendar. But I really want to say that it's amazing to see so many, it's quite an acceleration of the NAPs that have been submitted. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim and Rohini, for the questions. Now I would like to invite Amina and LEC members to support Amina to answer the questions.
Thanks, Mr. Vice Chair. I can answer the second question, and the first question I would refer to Paul. So yes, indeed, we're planning to conduct further writing workshops, one for the African LDCs, which will take place in March, then one for the Asian LDCs, which will take place in July, and another one for the Pacific LDCs, but the date has yet to be defined. Thanks.
Just before handing over to Paul, so just in addition to what Amina just said, so the idea with the subsequent workshops is to keep working with country that is lagging behind in developing, in formulating their NAP. So we'll work with those countries also, but for those who, which are a bit advanced in the process, or for those who already have a NAP and which participated in previous workshop where they have been able to develop some project ideas. So we'll keep working with them so they can further improve the concept, the project idea, and transform them into a concept note until project funding proposal. So it's a very continuous process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Amina and Lexer, for answering the questions. Now I would like to invite Dr. Paul to provide more comments.
Thank you, Adao, and thank you, Timo, for the question. The PEG tool has actually been used for the last 6 years in preparing the progress report on NAPs. It's basically an approach to identifying metrics to measure progress on NAPs, and so far we have been focused on the process of the NAP process, I suppose, of assessment and leading all the way up to the submission of the NAP. The work now is to expand that and extrapolate that into the area of outcomes of implementation of NAPs. So it's work in progress in that sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paul, for this answering the question raised by Tim and also Rohini. Let me, on behalf of you all and on behalf of the LEC, would like to invite, not invite, but welcome the chair of the least developed countries, Madam Madeleine. Thank you very much for coming. We just started our presentations on the NAP technical support provided by the LEC, and one of the country representatives has already made presentation due to under-site event. So we are going to continue our presentations before we invite the LEC chair to, or the LDC chair to deliver her statement. But I think we need to continue with our presentations. Otherwise, I will discuss the issue with the LDC chair, whether she would be very happy to deliver her statement before we go for presentation. Are you ready, Madam? So thank you very much. This is a very good a condition that Madam Chair is more than ready to make remarks on this event. So, Madam Madeline, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador Adao. Good evening, all colleagues who are here and all partners who are here with us in these important events of LEG. You know, LEG is really the instrument of its LDC's instrument under this climate change process, in particular for adaptation. And we are really, adaptation is fundamental for LDCs. So we have our most vulnerable countries. And since LEG, I think now it's 20 years, LEG is supporting LDCs. We are really proud of LEG. And we're really looking for LEG to continue supporting LDCs, but also using the product of LEG are being used everywhere by all parties. So saying that, I will come back to my statement. I just want to apologize. We were having some informal consultation on LEG, also LDCs matters with SBI chair. So this made me a little bit late here. Dear guests and colleagues, distinguished member of the LDCs group, it is a pleasure to be here today on behalf of the LDC group. I would like to start off by expressing our sincere gratitude to the LEG chair for his invitation to share our experience and priorities at this side event. Please allow me to reiterate our continued pride in the work of the LEG in supporting us, the LDCs, to tackle the issue of climate change and give millions of population a better chance to adapt to the impact of the climate change. Just to mention a few. The LEG has been instrumental in supporting the LDCs, and some of the significant include assisting each in having a NAPA, the first adaptation plan under the UNFCCC process. In fact, this set LDCs as the frontier of adaptation, from which adaptation we have it globally and in the process drew from. The LEG proactively engaged with the JEF and his agency to facilitate access to the LDCF for the implementation of NAPA priority. In fact, at the beginning there were many problems, and the tireless effort of the LEG helped address all these problems. The LEG developed technical guidelines for formulation and implementation of national adaptation plan and provide technical support for the implementation. Many of the LDCs are developing actually project ID with the support of the LEG to be implemented. They are available in a catalog maintained by the LEG and the LDC, and we're looking really to continue having this support. The work of the LEG is a sentiment to their commitment, and I wish to register my personal support towards making it a reality. I'll call upon all of you to do so. However, our country continues to suffer from the impact of climate change, and as the most vulnerable country to climate change impact, therefore, adaptation is not an option for us, but is a necessity. The IPCC report, Working Group 2, reminds us of the urgent need for adaptation, and there are limited finance to adaptation. By 2050, 1 billion people in low-lying coastal area will be facing escalating climate risks that will undermine adaptation effort, and approximately 3.3 to 0.6 billion people will be living in contexts that are highly vulnerable to climate change. The impact we are seeing on the news are also increasing. The flood in Pakistan, the melting glacier in Nepal, the recurring drought in Ethiopia are all the reason to move toward building capacity and resilience for LDCs and all countries, in particular developing countries. LDCs have been strong advocates regarding the National Adaptation Plan. The process of designing and the guidance that has been developed by the LEG to ensure its effectiveness to identify risk vulnerabilities, risk and need and priorities was really useful. But we still have only 16 NAPs available. I think this week we will receive additional NAPs, so I think this is good. And we're looking for having an increased number of NAP being submitted. So we expect by the end of this next year we will have most of the LDCs putting on the table by NAPs. This is our expectation. Since the inception of the LDC fund 21 years ago, only a total of 1.76 billion have been approved. This is not enough for our country to adequately adapt to climate change, and it should be a clear message on the urgency need to scaling up finance and enhance direct access to finance sources. I will finally want to thank the Secretariat for all the hard work that goes into support the work of the LEG. Furthermore, I would like to highlight the Adaptation Pipeline Accelerator Initiative launched by the UN Secretary General. The call to ensure everyone on Earth should be protected by early warming system against increasing extreme events and climate change in the next 5 years is a call of the LDCs group associated to this demand. I see an opportunity for the LEC to support LDCs in implementing this initiative. So, Mr. Chair, as I say, we are close to the LEC, to the group. We're looking really to continue supporting the LEC on his work plan. We just want to let you know that you have you behind you. We want you to know also that, as I already say, we're really proud of the work done by the LEG, and we're looking to have the LEG being more engaged, increasing his engagement, his commitment to work for the implementation of adaptation project in all LDCs. We're starting developing some support for the development of projects through NAP's implementation. We're looking also to ensure that NAP implementation will be something effective to show to the world that we're moving on adaptation, resilience, implementation is what we are looking from here in this COP. And we're looking really to see the LEC also taking on board additional issue coming up. You know what I'm meaning, so the issue of loss and damage. I think adaptation is averting, minimizing, but we have also to tackle the issue of loss and damage. We're looking for the LEC also to take this important pillar for the coming years. So thank you for your attention and looking forward being with you for all this section. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madeleine, for the remarks. Let me continue addressing our next session. Next session will be addressing the formulation and implementation of national adaptation plans. We would like to get update from the operating entities of the financial mechanism of the convention. We will have respective presenters, representative of Adaptation Fund, Green Climate Fund, and also LDCF under the GF. So with that, I would like to invite Mr. Farai from Adaptation Fund, followed by Mr. Pa from Green Climate Fund, and Mr. Dozy from the GF. Please come forward. So after we hear from the LEC representative, from the LDC chair, with regard to NAPS formulation and its implementation, we are going to have a further discussion with regard to support financially from different operating entities. So now our panel discussions, which will be more focusing on addressing formulation and also implementation of the NAPs. For the first part, we would have the update from the Adaptation Fund, and then followed by Green Climate Fund, and then GF to provide updates on funding to the LDCs. We have 15 minutes for doing this assignment. I now request Mr. Farai Onias to provide us update on the issue of Adaptation Fund. Mr. Farai, you have the floor.
Good evening, and thank you very much for inviting us to speak and share at least some of the activities under the Adaptation Fund, or how the Adaptation Fund is trying to address the implementation side of NAPS. I'll just start off by maybe talking about the nature of the projects under the Adaptation Fund. And these projects are financed, that are financed by the fund, are concrete, country-led, inclusive, and tailored to local adaptation needs. And they include sustainable agriculture, food and water security, disaster risk reduction, coastal zone management, forests, urban and rural development, nature-based solutions, and other thematic areas. So our projects are often innovative and the first adaptation actions on the ground. And these are also scalable. So of the 34 accredited national implementing entities accessing funding from the Adaptation Fund through its direct access modality, 9 are from least developed countries and 7 are from small island developing states. More than 60% of the fund's active portfolio is under implementation, and 139 concrete adaptation projects have been approved by the board. 48% of approved projects are from LDCs and SIDS, which represents a total of 41 from LDCs and 22 projects from SIDS. So with a disbursement rate of 61%, the fund ensures that its funding is reaching the most vulnerable without delays and contributes to building resilience. This translates to reaching 38 million beneficiaries that have reduced vulnerability and increased adaptive capacity in communities around the world. 1.4 million beneficiaries have been trained in climate resilience measures. 162,000 meters of coastline have been protected, and 608,000 hectares of natural habitat has been restored or preserved since the Adaptation Fund started disbursing. The fund's medium-term strategy, which is running from 2018 to 2022, includes various funding windows to support projects in LDCs. And these include a window on large innovation grants, a window on small innovation grants, a window on enhanced direct access, a funding window on project scale-up, and a funding window on learning and sharing. Through the second medium-term strategy, which the board just recently approved in its October meeting and is going to be running from 2022 to 2027, the fund will continue to support enhanced direct access to adaptation finance. The fund will also continue deliberate and proactive outreach to LDCs and SIDS, and I'd like to say that we're also particularly interested in some of the activities as mentioned, like the writing workshops, and to further explore how we can provide support through the fund's readiness program for speedy delivery of capacity building support for both access and programming of adaptation finance. And I'll end here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Farai, for the excellent presentation. Now I would like to invite Mr. Pausman to make a presentation on updating from DCF point of view. Mr. Pa, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I would present a synopsis of the GCF support to the LDCs. Could we move on to the next slide, please? This is a snapshot of the portfolio of the GCF. As of the last board meeting, we have approved 209 funding proposals amounting to 11.3 billion US dollars, and with co-financing, it's a total of 42.3 billion US dollars. And then you can see that currently we have almost 81% of the portfolio under implementation, and the target is to have this portfolio valued at almost 9.2 billion US dollars by the end of the year. The last one is also indicating the disbursement rate. Currently, we have a disbursement rate of almost 3 billion US dollars, and we hope by the end of the year we would have a disbursement of 3.2 billion US dollars. And the disbursement actually depends on the request from the accredited entities for requesting for disbursements. Next slide. Then here we are giving you the portfolio of the LDCs. Out of the 11.3 billion US dollars, the LDCs share of the funding is 3.1 billion US dollars with co-financing of 6.4 billion. Now this translates into 85 projects, 13 of which are multi-country projects, and 71 of these 85 are currently under implementation. Next slide, please. Now, if you look at the balance, as we are mandated to have a balance of 50-50 between mitigation and adaptation, we have 42% of the LDC portfolios under mitigation in grant equivalent terms, and 58% adaptation in grant equivalent terms, and in nominal terms, 54% for mitigation and 46% for adaptation. Next slide. Under readiness, we have 180 proposals that were approved, worth 136 million US dollars, and a total of 157 have been disbursed with a total value of 75.8 million US dollars. And this includes the national adaptation plans. And the next slide shows the adaptation pipeline and portfolio. We have approved a total of 67.5 million US dollars, and the LDCs portfolio represent almost 33.3% of this portfolio. And you can see the number of proposals that we have submitted, approved and disbursed last year and this year, and the number of LDCs that are yet to submit proposals, reducing from 9 last year around this time to 5 this year. And we want to commend the LEG and the LDC chair for facilitating and also supporting us together with our partners to engage the LDC countries in submitting their proposals. So we continue to provide support and reviewing the pipeline of projects that are at various stages of review, aside from the ones that are currently projected here. Next slide. Here we're giving you the policies that were approved by the board recently to focus on access, simplification. I'm not going to name all of them, but as you can see, we have the project-specific assessment approach, which can expedite projects, access to GCF resources, the accreditation strategy that was approved last month, and we also have the simplified approval process, which has been increased in terms of funding volume from 10 million to 25 million US dollars. We are now also working on the readiness preparatory support in terms of the guidelines, the standard operating procedures, and a digital dashboard, which would be presented to you next week for validation. And we hope that would also improve on access and the simplification of the approval and review process of the submitted NAPs and readiness proposals from our partners. Next slide. We did collaborate and cooperate with the LEG during the course of 2022, and as was reported, there was a very strong cooperation between us. We contributed towards the workshops, the writing workshops that were mentioned before, and also the NAP Expo. And we also engaged through the various meetings to provide information and data. And we hope to continue this collaboration during the course of next year to further continue developing project ideas within the GCF modalities and the country-driven and country ownership principles. And as I mentioned earlier on, we are going to have a validation of the new readiness strategy next week, and we hope to present this to the board in March 2023 in line with the updated strategic plan that we are also working on for 2024 and 2027. And we hope this would further strengthen our support to the NAPS discussion and also the origination work to translate the NAPS into investment plans that would address the concerns and the priorities of least developed countries. We want to encourage LDCs to work very closely with their GCF national designated authorities and our stakeholder partners to ensure that these concept notes that you are working on through the support of the LEG feed into the GCF pipeline so that the implementation of the NAPs would be expedited as you aspire. I think this is the end of the presentation, and look forward to answering any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Pa, for this very informative presentation on the support provided by the GCF to developing countries in dealing with NAP implementation and NAP formulation. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Dozy from the GF LDCF to make a presentation, special updating to us with regard to support provided to the LDCs. Dozy, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Adao, Lake Chair, Madam LDC Chair, members of the Lake, and others here in the hall. Thank you very much for having us and having Jeff here to update you on a few things that on our front in terms of the status where we are. I'm sure this has been a long day, and I think we were trying to figure out how to manage this as well as attending LDC matters. So I think all of us been through some of the crazy time trying to adjust all this. I wanted to be as brief as possible. Next slide, please. You know, since we have had this opportunity to brief the Lake last SB, one of the things that has happened is that we have ended the 7th period of the JEF, which is called JEF 7. And I think this is the first opportunity I have had in terms of briefing Lake on some of the summaries of what has happened during last 4 years. We have been able to serve all LDCs by LDCF, and this is in keeping in line with what we wanted and practice the principle of leaving no LDCs behind. And through that, we have actually been able to utilize 99% of the resources that was allocated to each country. This was done through programming of $423 million in 87 projects. And the anticipated beneficiaries out of this is about 21 million beneficiaries and 3.2 million hectares. One of the other major things that has happened over the period of JEF 7 was that we have been guided by, advised, and called upon to coordinate with the GCF. And I'm happy to update that, you know, those guidance were taken on board very seriously, and the long-term visions on JEF GCF has been operationalized. The coordination framework has been established. We have moved ahead with how to program with some of the pilot countries, and we have actually launched this at this COP. Secondly, I think one other program that I wanted to highlight over the period of JEF 7 was this, the catalytic innovation through challenge programs. We have had 2 rounds of calls for challenge programs, and we have had very successful, innovative, competitive, and more than that, I think catalyzing programs that has come out of the challenge programs, the projects that has come out of the challenge program. This is in essential the 3 things that I wanted to highlight from what has happened during the JEF 7 period. I could go on, but I want to move on to what we have for next 3.5 years. Next slide, please. So, as I said, we are looking actually for the JEF 8 period, which started about 5 months ago, and we are looking for next 3.5 years. And I want to highlight some of what we have in our strategy. Next, please. I think, as Faria has mentioned, in terms of sector, I think in terms of thematic areas, we would be working or still continuing to work in the area of agriculture, water, early warning, and climate information, and I think nature-based solution is something that we'll be focusing on. Of course, we would also be supporting thematic areas based on what countries would need. So, but these are the 4 major focus areas that we would be working for next 3.5 years, or a little more than 3.5 years. Next, please. Our priority is to scaling up finance. We wanted to strengthen innovation and private sector engagement, and also we wanted to prioritize the whole of the society approach. And strategy actually discusses quite a lot on how to achieve each of these. For example, under scaling up finance, interventions in policy coherence, institutional capacity, similarly, risk sharing to catalyze private sector under the priority area 2, and also building partnerships with the local organizations and trying to work with all levels of societies, recognizing that the impacts of climate change has to be tackled from a whole society point of view. So that's how we have organized in terms of the priority areas that we will look forward for. Next, please. Also, I wanted to update that the model of the resource mobilization, that we have actually moved in much more practical ways of multi-year pledging, where countries can pledge for multiple years, but at the same time accommodating the countries that it needs to pledge on the interim base, intermittent contributions as well. So with that, we think that it's going to contribute into us improving the predictability of the resources. Next, please. In terms of financial scenarios, we have the strategy actually adopts 2 financial scenarios. So one is floor of 1 billion, and the scenario B, which is at 1.3 billion. One of the encouraging information or update that's coming out of this particular slide is that the country allocation for each LDCs has now doubled in comparing to GEF7. It used to be 10 million. We anticipate to serve double that to 20 million, and this actually is right in line with the Glasgow Climate Pact of calling for doubling the climate adaptation finance from 2019. We also have the resources being allocated, at least there's enough resources for, well, not enough, but there is going to be resources available to continue the challenge program as well as regional and global initiatives. And I think one other thing that we have in this strategy is the dedicated programs, which is to dedicate, it's a program that's particularly meant to help countries in improving the access to finance. Next, please. This is basically a data program I was talking about. We have 3 different programs looking at communication and visibilities, then capacity building for planning and programming, and then of course there are lots of informations and data generations being generated by various projects and programs, and there is a lot of information that we can do cross-learning, not just at the project level as well. I think we have a lot to learn from the global areas as well. Next, please. Yeah, this is the end of my slides. I'm happy to answer any questions, but otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doji, for this very informative presentation. Now, it comes to question and answer, or questions and answers. So I would like to invite ladies and gentlemen to raise any questions. 2 questions, please, because of time limitation. Yes, madam, please identify yourself and raise your question.
I'm Derikano from Kiribati, a climate change planning officer. Thank you for your presentation. It's very informative. I just want to ask regarding the capacity building. Is that also also for the countries that already submit their NAP, or for those who are ongoing? Thank you.
Sorry, your question is going to the leg or to the adaptation fund or green climate fund or to the GCF? To the GF.
I'm sorry. No, I was like, there's a presentation, the last presentation. It was also promoting the capacity building for the LDC. I'm just seeking clarification if that is the...
So it is for Doji. Any more question? If not, oh, Paul. Paul, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dawan, and thanks to the colleagues from the three funds. I think we do appreciate the huge progress in supporting the LDCs that has happened and the very smooth interaction with the leg. I have one question that keeps coming up in the workshops, has to do with programmatic approaches and perhaps the scaled up support for adaptation to move away from project-based support. Is there any thinking or progress on this? Because most of the LDCs are coming up with this very similar priorities and across the countries, but how fast are you moving towards sort of a programmatic large-scale approach to supporting them as opposed to relying on individual countries submitting individual proposals that take quite a fair amount of effort? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. So one question for GF, one question for GCF. So Doji and Pa, you have the floor.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, we also have a question. I think it would be from the LDC chair. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador Adao, and also thank to the GCF, to the Adaptation Fund and the GF for giving us this opportunity to see how they can better support NAP's implementation. My question is related to all of them. Is it possible to have a combination of finance coming from the free entity in order to implement adaptation project? Is it possible to have such kind of combination? Are you thinking about such kind of working? So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Madeleine. I think the third question is for all the presenters from GF, GCF, and Adaptation Fund. So, Doji, you are the first one, and the second one is from Adaptation Fund, and the third one from Green Climate Fund.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Adao, and thank you very much for your excellent questions, both delegate from Kiribati as well as Madam Chair. On the question of how you want to use the capacity building. So this is our thinking, and we are very clear about this. Your preparation of NAP in itself would not mean that you would not be able to be included under our dedicated program. This is to say that in our understanding, after preparing NAPs, you got to prepare the projects based on NAPs, right? And then that's where I think our help might be useful for you to be able to access the fund. So the short answer to your question is yes. We are not gonna, whether your NAP preparation has completed or not is not going to determine how we're going to include countries to apply for funding. So our whole objective is to upstream all this in designing a good projects, so that the investment that we're making through the projects has got a good adaptation ambitions and good transformation, adaptation transformation coming out of that investment. So be assured that you're on our list, and as an LDCs, we stand ready to serve you in whatever capacity and manners we can, right? So that's one. On the Madam Chair's question on what's the possibilities of coordinating, the long-term vision of GFGCF has actually provided a good cooperative framework for us to be coordinating. And this particular mechanism has been in place for a while. And the most recent update is that the two secretariat works very closely. They formed a task force to work towards that. And here, a couple of days ago, we have launched a pilot 5 countries program for us to exactly do that joint programming. They are Bangladesh, Rwanda, Uganda, Fiji, and I'm actually blanking right now, but I can come back with the name. But there are 5 countries that that we have considered to be programming jointly. The idea is that the outcome of this pilot is going to give us a good information on how we organize ourselves from here on. So that's one rationale for this. We are actually exploring a similar arrangement with Adaptation Fund. At this point of time, we have not been able to formalize to the point of where similar arrangement has been charted out. My colleague Farai here would confirm that that's a lot of secretarial exchanges are happening. We have got lots of knowledge sharing, information sharing going on. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, all as a financial mechanism serving the Paris Agreement as well as UNFCCC, at the end of the day, I think all of us wanted to build upon each other to the point that it becomes to the scale of what's being required. None of us got an interest to duplicate. Rather, we wanted to make sure that the resources that we have are being contributing to the scale of what it needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Doji. Next, Farai, about the cross-cutting or joint program or joint, let's say, project.
Yeah, so in terms of a programmatic approach in terms of for funding projects, so this is kind of like the thinking that is there already within the funds. And I think the discussion in line with what the parties are already thinking, the fund is also looking at having more of a programmatic approach to providing funding and disbursing funding. There are discussions, just as Doji mentioned, between the 3 funds. So there's discussion between the Secretariat of the Adaptation Fund Board and the GIF. There are ongoing discussions and dialogue between the Adaptation Fund and the Green Climate Fund at the Secretariat level, but these discussions are also happening at board level. The idea is that to have a programmatic approach, the Adaptation Fund has got a funding cap of $10 million per project currently, and a funding cap of $20 million per country. But through early discussion and design of the project with GCF involvement, and these are some of the issues we are discussing, then projects already from the design phase can be tailored in a way that they are designed with the intention of being scaled up. They can be funded with seed funding from the Adaptation Fund to be scaled up by other funds like the Green Climate Fund. And these are ongoing discussions. We already have a couple of projects in our portfolio. I think about 20 projects have already been scaled up, not only by the GCF. Some of those have been scaled up by the GCF, some of those have been scaled up by the GIF. So these are ongoing things, but I think the bigger challenge is awareness and knowledge in country in terms of the avenues that they can access such kind of funding and how they can do it, so that the discussion starts. So for example, that's why we are very interested in these things like writing workshops, because at forums like that, if we receive invitations, then the funds can relay this information in terms of what the available funding opportunities are, some of the policy changes that are happening within the funds to facilitate such kind of programmatic approaches. And in terms of joint funding, I mean, the adaptation fund has got a regional funding window, or a window for funding regional projects. And these are projects that can be done jointly, we say by 2 or more countries, and there's no limit into the number of countries, and it covers a region. So this is a regional funding window. It's got a limit of $14 million per project, but it's an operational and functional window, and we've funded already several projects under that regional window. But so it's in 2 ways. There's the regional window, which takes place in country, where countries come together. But then in terms of joint funding, there are also these discussions that are happening where we can pull together resources between the different climate funds, and we're already doing that actually. The idea and the intention is, of course, to kind of mainstream that and broaden that, to scale it up so that we can really achieve results at scale. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite Pa to provide answer to the questions.
Thank you. Let me start with the complementarity and coherence one, where, as my colleagues mentioned, both from the Adaptation Fund and the GEF, we are scaling up. And what we are also doing is trying to see how we can harmonize our processes. And we're going to have a study on the harmonization of the processes between the GEF and the GCF as part of the long-term vision. Now, we have already started scaling up, as they've mentioned. We did scale up certain successful GEF projects and also adaptation projects. What we want to do now in terms of further access and expediting the processes is to ensure that if we have a very successful adaptation fund project that has gone through a very successful midterm review, we think they don't need to go through a very rigorous review process within the GCF. So we're trying to see how we can have some kind of indicators that would allow the internal review process of the GCF for scaling of adaptation projects to be a little bit faster. So that's the discussion we're trying to see. And we hope once we have that agreement, particularly within the Secretariat and also with ITAP, that would also expedite the review and also ensure that we have access, because that also relates to access, fast-tracking the review process, and then more projects will be approved. Now, with the programmatic approach, we have this multi-country approach. So the accredited entities can use a multi-country approach in the form of a program, because we are yet to have the approval of the programmatic approach policy. Hopefully next year, but again, it is related to the country ownership guidelines. Because of the issue of the NOL, you see, you might have been following the challenges we are having with multi-country, particularly when it comes to the private sector. So the country ownership guidelines are going to be reviewed next year, and we also have the gender, the social and environmental policies that are coming, are going to be reviewed next year. So we hope once we have all those things addressed, maybe that would enable us to have the programmatic approach paper approved before the end of next year. But that does not prevent accredited entities having multi-countries in a form of a program, depending the fact that the countries would accept that. And I think that is feasible from most of the accredited entities that are grant-based. UNDP, UNEP, and others could really go in for a big program between with various countries to scale up their projects. Okay.
Thank you very much, Pa. This is the end of the first panel discussions with regard to funding or financial support for the full implementation of NAPS and also formulation of the NAPS. With that, I would like to request GF, GCF, and Adaptation Fund to leave the podium so that we can allow our next panel discussions. please provide your uploads for the presenters. I think it was really good presentations to all of us. Next, I would like to invite country representatives to provide their reflections, their challenge and their needs with regard to the technical assistance provided by the LEC and also financial support provided by operating entities, GF, DCF, and Adaptation Fund. So with that, we supposed to have 3 panel discussions from Cambodia and also from Niger and from Comoros. But from Cambodia, we have done, since the distinguished representative of Cambodia has another commitment. So we would like to invite 2 distinguished presenters to come up to the podium, and we could start our discussions. So first one is Ms. Sulaima from Comoros, and then second one is Ms. Marie from Niger. I would like to provide questions with regard to your, let's say, success stories, your challenges and your needs for the formulation and also implementation of the NAPs from your respective countries. So my question for Ms. Sulaima of Comoros. We know that Comoros is currently finalizing the submission of the NAP. So could you please give us the updates on NAP formulation and implementation? And are there any challenges that we could address? So, Comoros, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And it's Miss Salima. Thank you. For your updating, I would like to address for the Comoro NAPS process is ongoing to elaborate, is not already done. And to highlight our work, first we had prepare main activity. We had provide an identification and roadmap, recommendation to advance the Comoro NAPS process. And after, we had review the roadmap with the leg at June in 2020. And we are a dialogue with the UNFCCC Secretariat and the expert group to discuss the NAP roadmap outline. It's also with Comoros group experts of the UNFCCC. Establishment of a working group, compilation of available background documents, including those from a workshop provided by the leg, a dialogue we had engaged with the UNFCCC leg secretariat to initiate the drafting of the NAP and define the delivery schedule of the draft chapter. We had also preparation the first class draft NAP according to the adapted outline of the NAP and schedule of paper to be developed once outline has been finalized. Consideration of the first draft NAP and dialogue with the UNFCCC Secretariat to considering comments on the draft NAP, not on the NAP. And before to coming in the COP 27, we had a written of some comment of the draft NAP we had submitted of the LEG and UN NAP team. And now, for the next step to finalize our NAP, we need to prepare the national workshop for the consultation and the prioritization of the adaptation action, and also a secondary order NAPs, including opportunity to integrate adaptation into development, planning, coherence, and synergy with other framework. And a stakeholder feedback and summarize of including and the feedback document from the national consultation. And finally, the NAP will validation and the stakeholder workshop in national countries. So during this process, we had some challenge regarding limited technical and human capacity in institution, absence of a coordination mechanism and regulatory framework for climate change, limited coordination at all levels. So we are an island, an archipel island constituted at 4 islands. So we had a limited coordination between federal level and island level due to the absence of adequation of information system and monitoring and evaluation. We have limited of civil society, limited awareness of environment issue in island level, limited availability of agrometeorological data, and concealment of climate information, lack of funding to pilot and implementation the NAP process. So, regarding these challenges, we need institutional capacity building, develop a regulatory and legal framework on climate change, establish a coordination mechanism at all levels among donor, governments, and island level. Develop an adequate information system and monitoring and evaluation at all levels. Capacity building for civil society, especially at technical level, training on climate change. Strengthen awareness of environment issue and climate change at the island level and support through concrete action. Increase the system for collecting agronomical data and meteorological data, develop of climate information, concealment tool, mobilize finance to pilot and implementation NAP process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sulaiman. Now I would like to invite Ms. Maria to be ready to answer my question. My information that we got from the country level is that the Niger is also currently finalizing the submission of the National Adaptation Plan. So it would be interesting to hear your priorities identified under the NAP. And the question is, how do you intend to implement these adaptation priorities under the NAP? The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. First of all, we would like to thank the LEG for giving us this opportunity to share our priorities and our challenges, which is coming. So first of all, I want to remind that we started our plan formulation in 2019. So we had two objectives: building capacities and then formulation of the document of the NAP. So our main objective today in our NAP is to contribute to the sustainable development of our country by reducing the negative impact of climate change. So in our document, you can find climate and social scenarios, guidelines of effective gender mainstreaming, and institution arrangement for the implementation of our NAP. So we did a capacity assessment needs, and then we found 3 acts strategic on focusing. So the first one, it was strengthening coordination between institutions and their capacities for integrating climate change adaptation into national policies and programs. The second one was mobilization of financing for implementation of national climate change policies. And the last one was integration of climate change into planning and budgeting tools. So we made stakeholders consultation to see what would be our priorities, and we found 5 sectors. So the first one is health sector, with 3 options and 12 projects. The second one is wetlands sector, with 4 options and 25 projects. The third one is forestry sector, with 5 options and 16 projects. The fourth one is transport sector, with 6 options and 22 projects. And the last one was livestock sector, with 7 options and 12 projects. So the total amount of our NAP is about 546,301,930 US dollar. So we are glad today, but because we all see we have the 3 grand found here. So our main challenge is just to find financing for our NAP. The second challenge is building capacity, because we found out that we need to build our capacity every day, because we are in the world that is changing every time. So we need to be able to face everything's coming. So the building of capacity is necessary for implementing our NAP. So right now we have also an implementation strategy of our NAP and a monitoring and evaluation system, but we are still elaborating our founding strategy. So we would also like to thank GCF, UNDP, the LEG, and other partners that help us to formulate our NAP. And we look forward to work with them to continue to implement our NAPs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary, for the excellent reflections. I would like to inform to the LDC chair that our colleague from Cambodia, Mr. Tak, had a presentation on the experience that the country gained when we, as a LEG, provided a technical workshop in Cambodia. So it was more focusing on the formulation of the project idea. So from that event, Cambodian government